Welcome to TTP TV. I'm Stu Miller, Director of Train to Proclaim. This is John and Tanya. They came along to our church, and as I like to do when people come along, I'd like to take them through the G7, which is a fantastic idea to do in every church. When people come along, share the G7 with them and see where they're at with the Lord. And they had a huge impact because they gave their lives to the Lord that day, which is amazing. How did you guys find it?
Yeah, it was good. It just made sense. No, it was simple and quick, which is good. In my background, I'd been raised as a Catholic, so it wasn't foreign to me as far as the gospel, and I thought I had a pretty good understanding of it. But it had a different level of truth, I think, probably very simply.
Okay.
I was obviously very ready because I hadn't been to church for many years, and I'd been invited back by a friend, and eventually I felt in my life that I definitely needed God there, and I guess the G7 was very relevant to me.
Okay. So it just made sense. It showed you the next step that you needed to take, sort of. Yeah. How about you, Tanya?
I found that it made me make a choice.
Mm.
That was probably the biggest impact that it had for me, in that, I could continue going the way that I was, but I had been able to see the truth, so it was definitely a thought-provoking...
Fork in the road sort of thing?
Yeah, it was. It was a fork in the road.
Yeah.
And you can continue this way, or you know the truth now, so
How do you shut
what are you
yourself
going to
up
do?
Yeah. So prior to coming to church, I mean, the fact that you came along to church, for a lot of people was a big step. So do you feel like, God was drawing you at that point? There was some things that happened that led you to that point where you were open to going along to church? Yeah?
Oh, absolutely. I know I had actually been praying for a church to go to, in that I didn't really have any Christian friends. I was at a point in my life where I was really searching for God, and I had prayed for a place to go. So
wow.
And then a friend had invited both of us, and I think I started crying.
I had a friend that I'd met just through business, and probably 2 years, I think, prior.
Yeah.
And she would call me every now and then and just say, "Hey, we went to church on the weekend," and she'd come and just encourage me. And I think God was definitely drawing, because there was things happening in my life which were tearing me apart. I wouldn't share that with anybody. And she would ring me, and I would quietly weep on the phone and think, "Wow, what's happening to me? What's going on? This is."
So you had a real sense of God.
Something happening.
Something's going on there.
Yeah, definitely. And so, in the end, to me, it was more like I'm actually now choosing to deny God's involvement in my life if I don't go.
Yeah.
And I remember there was a card left in my office just saying you're invited to the Rock Church, and Tammy and I were seeing each other, and we hadn't spoken about this at all.
Wow.
Faith, so I rang Tan and said, "This has happened. I think I'm going to go to church this weekend." And there was tears, and I thought, wow.
Because I didn't expect it to come from him.
No, it's amazing how God's working in both of your lives individually, and drawing you, and then you have no idea, and it's sort of broached the subject with the other, and it's like, wow. Yeah,
we're both in the same place, and so it was...
And amazing to hear you praying, even though you hadn't surrendered your life to Christ at that stage, like you knew God was there, you're like, there's a desire in you to know Him, and it just took something like, the gospel to be clearly explained to know what's the next step, and you're like, yep, let's do it.
And the seriousness of it, I suppose.
It's
not a case of when I think I as I said, I've had a Catholic upbringing, but I was definitely picking and choosing when I wanted to follow God and when I wanted to not.
Sure.
And so seeing it as clear and saying this is not something you can just pick and choose. Monday to Friday is the day you live. Maybe it's a bit different on the weekends. It's just
there's a whole life commitment.
There's a whole life commitment. And having children, what are you doing?
Yeah.
What really are you doing with your life? And the seriousness of it.
Wow, that's awesome. That's really good. So how has it impacted your life since you've given your life to Jesus?
It's in different ways, isn't it? Like to me, it was an ironing out of lots of bad habits and different stuff that I was had in my life. So it hasn't been simple and easy.
No.
I won't say that.
It
But-
never is.
but
when
worth
you
it.
realise
No, it's not, you know, no.
Sometimes life gets harder.
Well, it was. I really felt that. And I think, oh, this is not supposed to be happening. But you realise you're living life now at a different level.
Yeah.
So there's different players in the game, I think. And so that was probably the biggest thing for me to first accept and understand.
Yeah.
And then use the tools now that I've got as far as understand the Word of God,
Yeah.
having prayer and understanding and building trust in God
Yeah.
to be there every day, and sort of remove myself from the world and the in my own strength, which is how I've lived, definitely. So but it's fulfilling. Even the struggles and the battles, aren't they? Every time you win, even the smallest one, it's a different fulfillment that you'd ever have
Yeah.
and known before.
Yeah.
So you realise you are on a path and there's
Yeah,
something
it's good.
better. Yeah,
It's great.
so it's
It's really good.
Definitely a path of purpose and being in touch with God and knowing, I don't know, just talking with Him and having that understanding of what He desires for you instead of what do I desire for myself.
definitely.
And what John said, that there's all these little journeys in there, and you take them and they're not easy. They're certainly not easy, and I don't know, I think they are harder as a Christian, but there's a lot more to lose.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, you've crossed over from living life for yourself or the world to being in God's kingdom. You've got a new person on the throne, and that's hard. It's hard to and it's an ongoing thing, surrendering your life to Christ and walking with Him. But like you say, it's a path of purpose. I like that.
Yeah,
I'm
definitely.
going to use that. I like that. No, that's great. Well, thanks for being on the show. And this is TTP TV with an interview with John and Tanya, and great to have you.
Cool. Thank you. Thanks heaps.